Welcome back to MWC Barcelona. This year I'm joined by Nicholas Urkav at Core, Daniel Quant at Multitech, and Graf from AWS for a quick-fire interview here live at Mobile World Congress Barcelona. Thank you so much for joining me today. So I'm going to start with you, Nicholas, here. So security consistently comes out as a top concern with enterprises when they adopt IoT. Is this warranted? And what has been the security track record of IoT projects so far?
I think the first thing to say is that security is, of course, something that needs to be taken very seriously in all kinds of IoT projects. It's also true, however, that I think so far security has not turned out to be a barrier or something that has thrown off the development of IoT or the projects that customers are doing with IoT. In fact, the negative impact of security incidents and so on has not been very great throughout the years so far. I think mainly that has to do with that the communication channel between a device and the application has been very securely set up in many cases, right? So if you use a, say, quality IoT connectivity provider, that channel is not accessible from the outside from any public network. You don't have telephone numbers or public addressing means to reach the devices or break in from the outside. And you protect the traffic with VPN tunnels and so on its way from the device to the application. But of course, the endpoint, the IoT device itself, becomes a potential venue of attack for someone who wants to compromise your application or solution. So I'd say that security in IoT mainly is about connecting the endpoint, or protecting the endpoint rather, and also then protecting from any kind of malicious access from the endpoint into your IT systems and your applications. And that's incidentally where technologies like IoT Safe and credentials on the SIM card can play a very big role.
Fabulous, very interesting. And you touch on devices there. So Daniel, from a device perspective, and you mentioned IoT Safe as well, why is IoT Safe kind of attractive for yourselves and multi-tech customers?
Yeah, well, IoT Safe enables organizations to quickly and securely deploy and manage their connected devices, whilst protecting them against cybersecurity and malicious actors. And if I give a quick example, maybe, let me think. So maybe a retail company wants to scale out a food safety solution for compliance into not just one, but maybe thousands of supermarket chains that they've got nationally or globally. They want to be able to buy equipment that's in the channel, easy to find, be able to ship it directly to all those stores, and then be able to have guys who work in those stores install that device, and then be able to connect up the power, and then that device will authenticate itself, it'll provision itself with different profiles and settings, and essentially be securely onboarded into a back-end data system, all remotely without an IT guy or a developer having to get there, because there just isn't enough developers out there to configure every unit, and there aren't enough hours in a day to do that for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of units deploying into a retail situation.
I love that. Securely hands-free. I think it's fabulous.
So secure, zero touch, and super simple.
Yeah, which is what customers need, right? And actually, from an AWS standpoint, how will AWS IoT Core customers benefit from such solutions? We talk about simplicity there.
Yeah, that's great. So at AWS, we work backward from the customer and build services and solutions on behalf of the customers. With Core OmniSIM Safe, that is based on IoT Safe technology, now customers and OEM manufacturer can do zero-touch and secure provisioning all from a single dashboard. Not only they get connectivity across 180 countries, but they get the zero-touch and secure provisioning all the way to AWS. Eventually, like OEM manufacturer like Multitech can potentially have a global SKU that can help accelerate the IoT adoption, and also enable customers not just provision secure connections from AWS to AWS IoT, but also get coverage from This has a lot of cost benefits for OEM because now they have the single SKU, but also for customers who can do all the provisioning and security and secure provisioning over the air to AWS IoT. And this can be all done remotely over the core dashboard.
Fabulous. Well, thank you very much for taking some time out today to speak to me. Enjoy the rest of MWC Barcelona.
Thank you.